The courtroom had that heavy hush unique to places where fate gets decided by strangers in robes. Rows of dark-wood pews held people in still anticipation, murmurs fading like smoke as the bailiff barked for order. Fluorescent lights buzzed quietly overhead, washing the room in a flat glow. And in the center of it all, Judge Raymond Holloway sat high on the bench, his steel-gray eyes scanning the courtroom like searchlights. His reputation for strict decorum and zero tolerance for breaches of courtroom etiquette was well known. No cell phone buzz went unpunished. No chewing gum survived his glare. And certainly no improper attire went unchallenged. That morning, the door to courtroom 3C creaked open, and a woman entered quietly. She moved with purposeful steps, her gaze steady but reserved. Her attire made heads turn. She was wearing scrubs, sky blue scrubs, faded at the edges. A small stain, rusty and deep, bloomed near the sleeve. Her ID badge from Redwood Medical Center still hung from her breast pocket. The gallery whispered. Some tilted their heads, others narrowed their eyes. And Judge Holloway noticed. "You there," he said, his voice slicing through the murmurs like a blade. "Step forward." The woman stopped halfway to the witness stand. She looked up, meeting his gaze without blinking. Her hands trembled slightly at her sides, but she stood straight. Nurses are used to holding it together. "Yes, Your Honor," she said, her voice calm. "State your name for the record." "Danielle Rios. I'm a trauma nurse at Redwood." The judge's eyebrows rose. "And what, Ms. Rios, makes you think it's appropriate to appear before this court dressed as though you're about to perform surgery?" A few chuckles tittered from the back. The defendant, Trevor Langdon, a sleek man in an expensive navy suit, allowed himself a smirk. His attorney, Gregory Downs, leaned in and whispered something that made him stifle another laugh. Danielle's cheeks flushed, but she didn't lower her gaze. "Your Honor," the prosecutor, Assistant DA Alan Green, interjected, "Ms. Rios is a critical witness. She was working a double shift and came here directly from the hospital. We asked the court to consider her circumstances." Judge Holloway raised a palm. "This court considers all things in their due time. But this isn't a garage or a waiting room. This is a courtroom. We don't hold proceedings in pajamas or uniforms that smell of bleach and adrenaline. Miss Rios, this is not how one shows respect for the judicial system." Danielle glanced over at the front row. A woman sat there, Carmen Delgado, her eyes puffy, clutching a worn scarf between trembling fingers. Her son, 9-year-old Marco, lay in critical condition because someone ran a red light while checking his phone. That someone was sitting just a few feet away, clean-shaven and confident, with polished shoes that hadn't stepped in anything real in years. Danielle remembered the sound of Marco's breathing, erratic and wet. She remembered the surgeon's voice shaking slightly after the third operation. And she remembered Carmen, gripping her wrist and whispering, "Please, please tell them the truth." "I understand, Your Honor," Danielle said. "But I'm not changing." The gallery gasped. Someone whispered, "She didn't just say that, did she?" Judge Holloway blinked. "Excuse me." "I said no, Your Honor," Danielle repeated, her voice clearer now. "With all due respect, I won't change." The judge's mouth tightened. "Then perhaps you'd like to be held in contempt?" Danielle took a slow breath, then lifted her arm slightly, the sleeve bearing that unmistakable stain. She turned her body just enough so that the jury could see. "This," she said softly, "is Marco Delgado's blood." A stunned silence fell across the courtroom. "I left the ICU 20 minutes ago. I held pressure on a wound that shouldn't exist. I helped intubate a child who should have been walking to school this morning. I came here because I was subpoenaed, and because the truth matters. I didn't stop to change because there wasn't time. Because he doesn't have time." Trevor Langdon's smirk faded, and his attorney shifted uncomfortably. Danielle turned back to the judge. "You want to talk about respect? Respect is not in the fabric of your clothes. It's in what you stand for. I don't wear this to shock you. I wear it because I earned it. Every shift, every call, every life I've fought to save, even when they didn't make it." She pointed at the defendant. "He ran a red light. He didn't even break. And now a child is fighting for his life while Mr. Langdon's legal team tries to argue that Marco was playing in the street. He wasn't. I saw it. I charted it. I treated the aftermath." Danielle paused. Her eyes shimmered. "So no, I won't change out of these scrubs. Because this," she said, sweeping her arm down her body, "is what honor looks like." The courtroom was frozen. Even the stenographer had stopped typing. It was Carmen Delgado who stood first. The scarf in her hands fell to the ground as she slowly began to clap. Then came the jury foreman. Then the woman in the second pew. Then the gallery. Applause thundered through the chamber. Judge Holloway's gavel hovered in his hand, forgotten. His lips parted, then closed again. Slowly, he leaned back in his chair. "Proceed, Ms. Rios," he said finally. His voice, for once, did not carry the same icy authority. Danielle stepped into the witness stand, and the moment she sat, she was no longer the nurse in scrubs. She was a witness, a truth-teller, a shield between justice and evasion. As she recounted the events, the sirens, the ER scramble, the look in Marco's eyes before the anesthesia, Trevor Langdon shrank in his chair. His attorney stopped smiling. When Danielle finished, she stood to leave. The bailiff, normally stoic as stone, gave her a quiet, respectful nod. Outside the courtroom, she stood alone for a moment, eyes closed, listening to the faint echo of clapping that still lingered in the hallway. She hadn't done it for praise. She'd done it because someone had to tell the truth. Inside, Judge Holloway sat in silence for a long time after the door closed behind her. His gavel rested untouched, and in a rare moment of humility, he found himself wondering if he had just been taught something profound by a woman in scrubs. That afternoon, the court ruled against the defense's attempt to dismiss Danielle's testimony on grounds of inappropriate presentation. The judge called it the most credible and ethically anchored testimony I've witnessed in years. In the days that followed, Danielle returned to the ICU. Marco pulled through. He would walk again, someday. His mother sent flowers to the hospital. Yellow tulips and a note that read, "Thank you for standing." Danielle pinned it to her locker. Weeks later, a letter arrived from the court. Not a subpoena, not a summons, just a single sheet of official paper, signed by Judge Holloway. It read, "Ms. Rios, in a courtroom full of suits, you reminded us all what real integrity looks like. The court apologizes for its failure to see that at first glance. With deepest respect, the Honorable Raymond Holloway." Danielle folded the letter and placed it in her locker, right beside the tulip note. She never spoke of it again. She didn't need to. Because respect, she knew, wasn't about dressing the part. It was about being the part, even when the world refused to see it. And that, more than anything, was what she wore with pride.